Welcome to the triumphant return of Real Talk. This is our first episode, believe it or not, since September 27, 2020, when we discussed the classic horror film Head, written, directed, produced, starring the great John Bristol. I think some of you might have heard of him. Well, this time we're back.
We're back.
Almost 3 years later with a brand new twist, thanks to my co-host, once again, John Bristol of Elmwood Productions. Check him out on YouTube. Check out his Facebook page. Check out anywhere you find Elmwood Productions. Now, Real Talk was always about discussing our favorite movies and the effect it had on us growing up. And we did a couple. We did Jaws. We did Invasion and Body Snatchers. So many great movies that we talked about. But this time, John and myself are going to pick a movie that was critically panned, but the ones that we like and why we like them.
Right. Give them a second chance type movies, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this episode features John's pick was Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Say that one 3 times fast.
I know, right? It's way too long of a title, but we'll talk about that after.
Oh, yeah.
Yours pick was?
And then my pick was 1981's Tobe Hooper's somewhat classic, The Funhouse. I liked it. Maybe it's not a classic to most critics, but I think it's a good movie. I think it's a fun movie. No pun intended. But we'll get into that too.
All right, so we're gonna start with Indiana Jones. I gotta put the hat on. All right, here we go.
I love it.
All right, so it's been, like we said, like 3 years. And also one thing we're gonna start doing with the show is we're gonna have other guest hosts come on and talk about movies now too. So I think the next episode is gonna be another Elmwooder, one of the puppeteers of Elmwood, Nikki Laporte. You guys are talking about
Jurassic Park.
Was it the whole franchise or just the first movie?
Mostly the first one. We did talk about some of the other ones. But Nikki is such a die-hard fan. I think if she had a chance, she would actually marry a dinosaur. That's how much she loved these movies.
She should just start dating older. No, she's married. But if she wasn't, start dating older men. She could say she's dating dinosaurs, you know. But Nikki's great, so I can't wait to see that one. So, anyways, let's go right into it, and welcome back to Real Talk, man. Thank you.
All right.
So Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was 2008. Spielberg came back. It was right before Lucasfilm was getting ready to sell to Disney. So I think they were just trying to get things going to get Disney interested, you know? And that movie was sitting on the burner for like 15 years. You know, there was 18 or 19 years in between, 19 years in between Last Crusade and that. And so why I'm saying I'm defending the movie, I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone that Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls is a great movie. I'm not going to tell anyone that it's a great Indiana Jones movie. But I'm going to say this to start. When you have a series of films, whether it's Indiana Jones, James Bond, Evil Dead, you know, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know, we're talking about Tobe later, you know, any series of films, there's always one that's not going to be the best one. Mm-hmm. And if Crystal Skull is the worst Indiana Jones movie so far, it's still not a horrible movie.
Not at all.
You know, it's got all the things that the Indiana Jones movies have. It's got all the goofiness that all of them have. And I think when people think people tend to forget when they're watching them as their comedies as well as adventure films. Indiana Jones bumbles his way through all of these movies. And he gets through it a lot of times on just sheer luck. You know, he survives a lot of times on sheer luck, not on his own skill. And that's part of the fun of the movies. And another thing people complained about that movie that I was friends with were like, well, he didn't even get a treasure in the end. Like, name one where he did.
I can't name any.
The Ark gets taken away from him. Yep. He gives the stones back. The Grail falls down the pit. What he gets at the end of each movie is enlightenment.
Yep.
You know, he gets something new, a new part of his life. He gets the knowledge. He gets experience. You know, the first one, he ends up reconnecting with a lost love. You know, the second one, he saves all these children. It's really the only movie where he's truly a hero. Mm-hmm. Other than saving his own ass and the things he's there for, is the only one where he actually helps somebody else. He helps those kids and saves them. And he brings that stone back to the little village and saves the village. And the third one, he regains his father. You know, and the fourth one, this is where we're going to go with it. And the fourth one, he's a man who's out of time. You know, he's at a crossroads in his career. He's not as young as he was. I'm glad they didn't make any of those, like, I'm getting too old for this shit jokes like in Lethal Weapon, but he's not as young as he was.
Yeah.
He shows it. But at the end of the movie, he gets, you know, there's a line at the beginning of the movie after he gets fired, or after he gets to resign, and his boss gets fired. His boss resigns. They both get to leave. They both lose their jobs at the university.
Yeah, which was actually filmed at Yale.
Yeah, yep.
Because
Yep.
and the reason is because his son Theo, Spielberg's son Theo, was going to school there, and he said, I want to stay close to my family." So this is the first Indiana Jones that was actually not filmed outside of the U.S.
Yeah, everything was filmed in the U.S. for that one. Yep. And it showed. You know,
Yeah.
the tropical thing. There was a lot. There was too much CGI in that movie for sure.
Well,
At a time when CGI wasn't as good as it is now. You know,
yeah.
like that's one of the flaws with the movie. Like the gopher, or the prairie dog, whatever it is in the beginning, is just like looks so fake. You know.
Well, the funny thing
But
about that is I haven't seen that movie in so long, probably
right,
since it came out in 2008. So I wanted to brush up on it. So I watched it and I was reading more about it too. And I guess Frank Marshall, who's the producer, said,
right,
"We're not going to use CGI. We want to use traditional stunt work, just like the other one, to be consistent more with the other movies." But what happened was they thought it was too dangerous to be doing that kind of stuff in the jungle, so that's why they did
yeah.
all the
I mean, most of the stunts were still legit stunts, but
yeah, yeah,
they were using modern effects, you know, which is I'm fine with that. That CGI, some of that didn't really bother me as much as the cheesy prairie dog looked. Didn't they could have got a
yeah.
puppet that looked better, you know?
I know.
And I'm not just saying that because I have puppets behind me. I'm saying that because you know they've used Yoda was a better puppet than that prairie dog. You know, like
Right.
Lucasfilm has access to this kind of technology. So like thinking about all those movies, but in the beginning of the film, after they both lose their job, that's where I was going with it. And this is what kind of sets the movie in motion and why it's a good movie. One of the reasons I think it's a good story is his boss, whose name is I'm drawing a blank on, the dean or whatever it is at the university. You know, he's looking at a picture of his dad, and he's looking at a picture of his dad because he's got nothing. He's a single man in his 60s, you know, late 50s, 60s, how old he's supposed to be at that point. I think in the late, maybe 60 years old or late 50s. And he's just lost his job and he's going to leave the country. And his boss just says to him, you know, we're at that age where God stops giving us things and starts taking them away.
Mhm.
And and if you're not really paying attention to the movie, that's just a throwaway line about his dad being dead and his old boss, Marcus Brody being dead.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, all our friends are dying. Let's just move on with our lives. And then as the movie goes on, this film is Indy's journey of gaining things at a time when he should be at an age where things are being taken away. He rekindles that original love. You know, she shows up back in his life
Mhm.
and finds out he has a child he didn't know about. You know, so at the end of the movie, his journey wasn't to put this crystal skull back on the dead alien and send them back to their universe. It was his real journey was to, you know, get the things that he thought he'd never have. And he ends up with a family at the end. He ends up married, things you don't expect Indiana Jones to do. And that's a great ending if they never made a fifth movie.
Yeah.
This is again not the best movie, but having him walk off with the girl at the end and having the kid behind him is a great way to end that movie. And there's other things throughout the movie that still make it a good movie for storytelling. You know, his friend being the triple agent, double agent, you know, the guy who just sells him
Yeah.
out. That's another thing. He lost another thing. He lost a friend, you know, partner he'd been with for a while and things like that. Um, yeah, was Shia LaBeouf the best actor? No. Is he a good actor? Yes. It just wasn't the right role for him. You know, I think it was fine when I saw it the first time in the theater. I was like, that was great. You know, like I knew it was the best movie ever, but he was good in it. Then as I saw it more, I'm like, it looks like he's not having that much fun. You know?
Yeah.
um, I know that like Spielberg wasn't too happy with the whole idea of aliens because he'd done aliens so much, so they called them like interdimensional beings, but they were aliens,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
another person from what I read, Harrison Ford said, "I do not want to do an alien invasion thing." And it
Mm,
was George Lucas had the idea of he wanted to go
yeah,
back to the 50s, the B-50s movies,
right.
you know, the alien invasion. And that's when Harrison Ford and Spielberg said, "Yeah, I did Close Encounters. I really don't want to do a Spielberg and
Yeah,
alien movie." So, but
and
so they when they came up with the Crystal Skull, I think that's a great idea.
yeah,
I like
because
the
it's an artifact that's set in somewhat reality. Skulls have popped up that are made of glass. They call crystal skulls. The vodka, even Crystal Head vodka. You know, like um, another defense of the film is a lot of people were bitching. Oh, it wasn't realistic. Indiana Jones wasn't realistic. He was in the fridge. The spaceships aren't realistic. And I'm just like, have you seen the other three movies? Because in Temple of Doom, they rip a guy's heart out. They pull it out. It's still beating. The dude doesn't bleed or anything. They put him in a fire pit, still alive, with no heart. And then the heart catches on fire. But you're gonna say
yeah,
Crystal Skull wasn't realistic? Like they're not supposed to be realistic. They're fantasy films, you
yeah,
know? Like in Nuking the Fridge, so what? It's fantasy films, you know, like they're entertainment. But you
yeah,
were talking about
exactly.
how they didn't want to do the same thing again. You made a great point about how being that the movie takes place in the 50s, science fiction was a big thing in the 50s. And that's just another reason why I think Crystal Skull is a great, if you follow the Indiana Jones history, and what the movies were doing and the times they take place, Crystal Skull fits in perfectly because the original films were tributes, throwbacks, and ripoffs of what was done in the 1930s and 40s with the movie serials, where every Sunday you went to see a movie or Saturday, and they'd play a little short film beforehand. It would end on a cliffhanger. That's why they called them cliffhanger serials.
Yeah.
Where the guy's hanging on the bridge and might die. Come back next week to see what happens next. He comes back next week and he crawls up the bridge. And if you watch the Indiana Jones movies, they're a throwback to that, right down to the fact that these guys, these adventure guys, never lost their hat. You know, their hats were stapled to their heads or something. Never lost their hats. So like, and Indiana Jones, the films are a series of, and within the films, of mini adventures with Indiana Jones just surviving through the next mini adventure. And that's what those movies were. But then come 1955, I think Crystal Skull takes place in 58. Movies weren't about fighting Nazis anymore. They weren't about World War II. They weren't about what was coming up between World War I and II. They weren't about the adventures anymore. Movies had gone a different direction. It was the Red Scare, and it was alien invasion movies. And the alien invasion movies were a metaphor for communism and the Red Scare.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those writers were writing that, like, ooh, look how evil this is. Look, atomic world, this and that. The Russians are going to ruin us. The Soviet Union is going to ruin us. Who were the villains in that movie? The Russians, the Soviet Union. You know, they're at the Red Scare, and it's a science fiction film with the big monster. Like back in the 50s, you had all the giant bug movies.
I love those.
And then what's in Crystal Skull? Giant ants.
Yeah.
They're not like as big as a house, but there's these big, like they went right for that atomic age. So this movie was really like the original, is a throwback to the era that it takes place.
Yeah,
you know?
I loved it.
And that was, and a lot of people missed that boat. They were like, oh, it's not like the other one. It was still the adventure upon adventure upon adventure, but they threw in what was happening in that time frame as well. And I think that was really smart decision making.
Well, you know what I think is funny? It's the same people that said, oh, it's not the same as the other ones. If it was the same, they'd say, boy, they can't think of anything new. They're just going to do the same old movie. Why even make the movie?
Yes.
And you know what's funny about what you said about the Red Scare? It was that Frank Darabont. I'm sure you know who he is. He's a lot of Stephen King stuff. And
he wrote one of the scripts before Crystal Skull. Yeah. He was one of the many writers who wrote Indiana Jones scripts that never got made. There was a dozen other scripts at least that never got made.
Well, he's the one that had the Nazis involved. And I guess it was George Lucas. According to what I was reading, George Lucas said, I'm taking over the writing. And I don't know. I mean, my personal
opinion. He didn't write the script in the end. Spielberg had his like go-to guy.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember, right?
David Koepp.
Yeah, that's it. But Lucas definitely had his... I know Spielberg was done with Nazis too. He's like, after Schindler's List, he don't want to do Nazis anymore. Yeah. They weren't funny to him anymore. You know, he got to that age where the old stuff is still funny, but he didn't want to make them. So I understand why he didn't want to do it. And that's why part of the reason why I'm sure he didn't want to do the new one, you know, that's coming out. But
well, from what I heard, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is he only a producer on this movie? On the new one?
He is. It started with him directing. I know, and the Nazis were involved in all that because there's flashback scenes, but he backed off to make Fableman instead, which is a beautiful movie. So I see why he, and you know, maybe, and I think he was just, he'd done it. He'd done 4 of them. Maybe, you know, like he's not a big sequel guy. He's only done 1 other sequel in his whole career. Yeah. That was Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah.
You know, so Indiana Jones was like his character. He helped create it. So I understand why he kept doing it, but I have nothing but faith in the director who directed the new one though. I'm excited to see it. I'll be there opening night, you know.
I have a feeling it's going to be like Tobe Hooper with Poltergeist. Spielberg, everybody talks, and I actually spoke with some people that were in Poltergeist, and sometimes they were calling Tobe Hooper the assistant
Spielberg was guiding his hand,
exactly.
Spielberg was the guiding hand. I mean,
Spielberg's going to have a lot of say in how it goes and what he wants. I think he's a lot more. I mean, that was in '82 with Poltergeist. I think he's a lot more.
I know that he was never really on set for this Indiana Jones movie, from what I've heard. So he probably didn't have a lot of say, but I'm sure he had some say in the script.
Yeah, definitely
not the actual direction, but he was definitely there for the story and script. But like the movie itself, though, is shot great. The cinematographer is amazing. You know, the costuming is great. The music is great. Like John Williams, you're talking about John Williams on camera.
Let's stop right there for a minute. I want to talk about him because John Williams has to be. I mean, there's so many great composers out there, like Jerry Goldsmith, Hans Zimmer, Danny Elfman. I can go on and on about people, composers.
Graham Ravel,
But John Williams, all you have to do. Name hit 3 notes and you could say Star Wars, hit another 3 notes, Jurassic Park, hit another 3 notes, Indiana Jones. And I saw an interview with him recently and they said that he's 91 years old. He's still playing with the Boston Pops. I was trying to get tickets to see him. I can't get tickets. It was already sold out. But they said that he can never say no to Spielberg and he wants to do it. But he said sometimes it takes 6 months to make a movie. And he goes, at 91 years old, I don't know what 6 months is going to mean to me. If I'm healthy, I'm going to do it. And that's going to be his last movie ever. but that would be a perfect one to go out on because that theme is so
Yeah.
iconic. It's so familiar to everybody. I love
And
it.
he did the last Star Wars trilogy, and he said he's retiring from Star Wars after that, which made sense. You know, he did his 9 films. You know, so if this is his last Indiana Jones movie, or maybe even his last movie, that go
Yeah,
out on top. You know, with a
exactly.
theme that everyone knows. But where I was
Exactly.
going with it, the music is so on point too, because he even uses the theremin,
Hmm.
which was a big thing in the 1950s for the science fiction films. That woo, that weird sound. He uses
Yeah.
that in the score, which was an instrument that didn't really get used in the 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, up until science fiction films. And he worked that into the score, which was just like knowing the era the movie takes place. He was smart enough to do that, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, I think a buddy of mine was like, the Indiana Jones movies are the reverse of Star Trek, where every even number Star Trek movie is really good.
Hmm.
And then Indiana Jones is the opposite. The odd numbered ones are the ones that everybody seems to love. One,
Yeah.
3, and maybe 5. Where 2 and 4 kind of get shit on. And I love Temple of Doom. I
Yeah.
don't apologize for Temple of Doom. I like them in the order they came out, to be honest with you. I think 1, 2, 3, 4 is like, you know, the for me. I know Last Crusade is a better film overall, but I have a soft spot for Temple of Doom. But those are things. I think that's my defense of that movie, though. Is like, you know, you have the character is in a new time, a new place, and and the story isn't about the crystal skull itself. It's about the journey of him gaining this new life at a time when he should be winding down his life.
Hmm.
You know, and I'm sure it's going to lead into what some of this new movie is, because it's, you know, 15 years later, 16 years later. So I know he's playing, the movie takes place like only like 10 years later, so somewhere in there. So I know it's, you know, it's going to be the older Indy doing something similar, but probably knowing that his adventure time is ending, you know.
Well, there's one thing that I'm so glad. I think you mentioned it earlier that Harrison Ford said, "I'm not doing any old jokes." I'm so glad because
Yes.
I hate those movies where it's
Oh,
like the example would be The Expendables. Like, okay, we know you're old. Shut up. Just get
yeah,
on
move
there.
a little slower, like that's fine and all that,
Yeah,
but just to have the lethal weapon thing, which is how lethal weapon started. I'm getting too old
yeah,
for this shit, and that was part of the theme of the film. But
yeah.
to add that in as you go, my hat's crooked. There we go. To add that in as you go,
Perfect.
like, you don't, why? You know, you see that he's older. You can tell he's older. He's moving differently. You don't need to push. You don't need to be punched in your face with every other line. Like Shia LaBeouf's character Mutt calling him old man and grandpa. That was perfect. You
Yeah,
didn't, because he didn't even know it was his dad. You know, like, that's great. Just needle him, like needle the old man. That's fine. But just being like, oh, Indiana Jones, my back hurts. The
yeah.
opening sequence when he whips, he's in the warehouse and he
Yes.
whips and he swings and he misses the truck he's trying to land on. He swings back and breaks into the window of the other truck.
Hmm.
That's the perfect old joke through the whole film, because he looks at the other two guys before punching them both out and goes, I thought that was closer. And younger Indy would have not had that problem. You know, that's showing his eyesight's not what it was. You know,
Yeah.
whoa, oh no, boom, and he still was the hero of the moment. But you know, that was a perfect old joke, because it wasn't just, oh, I'm so sore from doing that. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't make it.
Yeah.
Get out of this. You know, like,
Well, you know
yeah,
what also I like about this movie is how they introduced Indiana Jones. It starts off where he's in the trunk of a car,
car.
and
You
all
know,
you
it's
see is
always so,
the shadow.
yeah, and he puts the hat on, and you're just
Yeah.
like, oh. And it's a great sequence. And it also, in some ways, one more thing about a positive of the film, it's the only actual sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Hmm.
You know, Temple of Doom is a prequel, takes place a year earlier. And even though it's just a sequel, you know, and Last Crusade is definitely a sequel, but this one is like a true sequel in a lot of ways, because one, they throw back to the Ark. The warehouse he's in that scene is where the Ark ended up at the end of Raiders, and you see the Ark for a quick second in a broken crate. The love interest is back, and
Yep.
it
Karen
continues their
Allen.
story. And it continues their story as well. And that's what sequels do. It continues a story that's already begun. Where with Temple of Doom and Last Crusade, these are just new adventures with the same lead character.
Hmm.
You know, like you don't call like Octopussy a sequel to Doctor No.
Yeah.
It's just another movie with James Bond in it. You know, in order for it to be a sequel, you have to continue some story elements, and this is the only one that really does that. So it's the only true sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. No, to me, I watched it again, and I can't see
Yeah,
anything that I dislike about it because I just take it at what it is. It's just a fun movie,
a
as you
fun adventure
mentioned.
movie.
Yeah, they're based on the serials of the 50s or 30s or 40s, and I love those. Like you see, as you mentioned, like the car goes off the cliff. What's going to happen? Come back next week. It's those
Yeah,
things. And then,
and the difference is the Indiana Jones, the car goes off the cliff and it cuts to the next scene. You know, like, But yeah. So I mean, and like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's the greatest movie ever made. I'm gonna keep saying that. But when I look at the movies that came out in 2008, I can only name two movies off the top of my head: The Dark Knight, and
Yep.
Crystal Skull. I can't think of any other movies I saw in the theater off the top of my head.
Neither can I.
And I know I saw a bunch of movies, I'm sure, but like, 'cause I love
Oh, yeah.
movies, but like when I think of 2008, and that movie didn't have, I mean, it had a lot of hype. It had the soda cans and the fast food meals and all that. But once the movie was out, they didn't keep pushing it really hard, and it still was like the number one movie in the world that
Yeah.
year. In America, Dark Knight was, but I think worldwide, Crystal Skull took in more money, and that says something about the movie.
Well, I can tell you
It's
right
just
now, 'cause I
about
actually have
Harrison Ford and the character too.
yeah. Well, I had the figures for the
Oh,
worldwide.
cool.
It grossed $790 billion. Wait, $790,653,942.
Jeez.
Domestic was 317,101,119, and foreign was 473,552,823. It's ranked 46th domestic, all-time domestic, ranked 58 all-time worldwide. So the movie is not a flop.
No, it's not a
Not at
flop.
all.
And even like I remember when critics came out, they were all saying it's a fun movie. It's not the best.
Yeah.
And then people who just sit there want to, like I said, the people I know that just want to shit on it,
Yeah.
watched it once, went online, read other people didn't like it, so they can't like it either. There's a lot of that kind of bullshit going on in the world right now in general. People are afraid to have their own opinion because they don't want to be that guy who's not like everybody else on the internet. Well, be that guy.
I love being that guy because I don't read anything before I see a movie. I don't want to.
Nope.
I mean, I'm never influenced by what other people say because I know say if you like something and I don't like it, we're still going to be friends. We have different opinion. Yeah.
I mean, you're wrong. I'm right, but no, just kidding.
All right, now, but it's just I don't know why people have to worry so much about, and like they're so easily influenced. Not everybody, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So I liked the movie for what it was. I always liked it. I only saw it the one time. I remember seeing it at the drive-in because I love going to the drive-in, and because it came out, it was the big May, the Memorial Day movie.
It was May. I have the actual one sheet, the pre-release one, I still have. I have from the Lowe's Theater in Plainville. A friend of mine's mom worked there, and they grabbed it for me.
That's very cool.
I should have had it up for this, but I didn't even think of it until just. It's in a poster tube right there too. Not going to get it out right now. The hat wasn't up. There's a hat. See the hat right there?
Yep, I do see it.
That hat is a 1984 Temple of Doom official hat made by Stetson that my mom gave me the year the movie came out in '84.
Wow.
I still have it. And if you watch Elmwood movies, watch The Jungle Man.
Mm-hmm.
He's wearing that hat in both the movies.
Wow. So you really are a fan.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan. If you look right there, that is a 1981 action figure, the 12-inch action figure.
Oh, I do see it. Yep, right over there.
Right there. That's his head right there. Yeah. And E.T. is underneath him with Yoda. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, I think we mentioned the ending. You mentioned the ending. What I like even better, or no, what I like, what added an added touch to the ending is when Shia LaBeouf takes the hat and they're walking down the aisle. All of a sudden, Harrison Ford takes it. It's like, no, puts on the hat and they walk out the church. I love that. Was a perfect ending. I mean, exactly what you said, but even the touch with the hat.
I think a lot of people were expecting it to be the type of movie where they're going to introduce this kid and then make a series of films about him. I don't think that was ever really the plan. You know, like there was rumors that was the plan. Oh, we're going to bring Shia LaBeouf in, and then the movies will continue, but it'll be about Mutt Williams instead. And that wouldn't work. And because no one goes to see Indiana Jones movies for the other characters. I mean, they do a little bit. Like I love Sala. I'm so glad he's in the new one. And I liked Brody in the two that he was in. And but you're there for Indy, and you're there for the people around him. And even if they made a series about Mutt, that character had to be so dynamic in the first film. Yeah. If they made another film, that was never the plan.
No, I don't think it was ever the plan.
There might have been a plan to make more sequels with the two of them together, like do two more, like make another trilogy essentially about father and son, but that just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess Sean Connery, they did want him as a cameo because during the wedding part, but he said, "I'm enjoying retirement way too much." Sorry.
And John Rhys Davies, the guy that plays Sala, were both asked to come cameo at the wedding, and Rhys Davies was like, "If I'm in an Indiana Jones movie, I'm in the movie." Yeah. It was a good point. He was like, I don't necessarily be on the adventure, but I have to be in more than just a cameo. And I get even a bigger scene would have made sense, but
And the funny thing was with Karen Allen was just the opposite. I guess because she owns a shop somewhere. It's just funny because
She has a she makes clothing and
yeah,
like scarves and stuff like that and she also teaches yoga, I believe, in
yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, because she
Columbus.
what side note, I was trying to a couple of years ago, I was trying to get her as a guest for the Claws
Oh,
Corner, and she told me to call that place up. I called once, I'm gonna try again to get her on the show because I would love to talk to her. I mean,
yeah.
besides them, but the reason I brought her up, I mean, it's got such a great cast, but she originally thought that she was gonna have a cameo, and
Right.
Spielberg said, "No, you're gonna have a big part in here." And she
You're
goes,
in the movie. Yeah.
he goes, you know why I'm calling you? She said, no. He goes, you don't read the paper? No.
You're
She
in the
had no
movie.
idea they were
Yeah.
going to do it.
That's not what a great way to find out though. You're just gonna call them like, wait, well, you're in it. What if she was like, nah, that would have
I
screwed
know.
the whole movie up. But she's like, nah, I don't really want to act anymore.
I know. It was fun back then, but I'm not really in
Yeah.
the mood to do it.
But, so yeah, so that's my defense of the film. Like I'm gonna close this out. What I'm gonna say more or less with saying like, give it another shot, especially with the new movie coming out. If you're like me, I'm planning on watching all four before the new one hits the theater. Just catch up. Not that I don't know the first one by heart because it's my all-time favorite movie, but like, give it another shot. Watch it with an open mind with those things. That science fiction movies were big when that movie took place.
Yeah.
Communism was a big thing. There weren't Nazis really that we were aware of. They were there, but we didn't really know about them at that point in the U.S. And that was kind of that's there. And the adventure is never about the treasure he's going for. It's about the knowledge and the new things he gains throughout it.
Yeah. No.
And so watch it with that in mind instead. And yeah, some of the CGI is a little wonky. So some of the CGI in the first three prequels to Star Wars too. They were of their time, but it's still not as bad as any Fast and the Furious movie ever made.
No, I mean, as you said, if that's the worst out of that series, that's better than any of the new releases for most of the new releases that came out that year. So
Yeah,
the worst is better than some of the original stories that
yeah,
came out. So I agree with you on that one. And just the cast alone, you mentioned Karen Allen, Harrison
yeah.
Ford, then we had Jim Broadbent, Shia LaBeouf, John Hurt, and
Hurt.
my all-time favorite, one of my all-time favorites, Kate Blanchett. She is
Yes.
good in everything.
She is so over the top and wonderful in that movie.
Yep.
Like people are like, oh, she overacted. But look at Tote in the first one.
Yeah.
With he with the trench coat and the coat hanger. He was that menacing over the top villain. Look at Mola Ram. Was so over the top. Like she was just following the mold, and she did such a good job.
Yeah, no, definitely. She does. I mean, it's funny. I saw an interview. This is years ago, but I saw an interview with her, and she was speaking. And I said, "Why does she have an Australian accent?" I've seen her in so many movies. I did not realize she was from Australia.
Yeah,
because she's. And it was funny because Spielberg said, "He goes, I was warned by one of my director friends, you might lose Kate Blanchett because she goes into character." And he goes, "As soon as I started rolling, bam, she became that character, and she was." I thought she was great. I don't think she was over the top at all. I thought she played it perfectly.
But she was over the top appropriately,
Yes.
Like, the costume, the whole thing. It was part of the character. The way you're rolling your W's. Like, I love that line. Oh, all right. Yeah, so that's it. Watch that movie. I'm telling you, give it a second chance. 15 years later, 16 years later, whatever it's been since 2008. I'm bad at math. 13, whatever. Just watch it. I guarantee you'll enjoy it.
You know what? You sold me. I'm gonna have to end this episode early so I can rewatch the movie again.
Well, let's just party, man. Let's do all four and then go see the fifth one when it comes out. I got a buddy who wants to do it with me. I'll invite you over when we do it. We're gonna do like one a week leading up to it.
Let's do it. I like that.
So that's you got any last thoughts on Crystal Skull before we go?
No, I mean, as usual, you and I are pretty much right on point with that. I think it's a fun movie. You don't have to take it seriously.
No.
It's not bad, and I like the fact that they didn't go with the old jokes. I like the fact that they kept the same type of story. They made it fun, lighthearted, and it was basically what you wanted, what you expected from an Indiana Jones movie, and it did not disappoint.
There we go.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. I'm changing hats now as we move to the next film.
All right. So now if you can get your Carney hat on.
I wish I had one. Do I have hat head? If I don't have hat head, I'll just go bald and let the glare come off my head for the rest of the episode. What is with this lighting? Anyways, yeah.
So my movie was directed by Tobe Hooper, who is well known for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's his big quote unquote masterpiece. He came out with a movie in 1981 that was trying to dominate or sort of like ride out the coattails of the Friday the 13th franchise, and that just came out. So he came out with a movie called The Funhouse, and it just was so critically panned, and I don't know why, because sort of like what you said about Indiana Jones. It's like, I don't know what they really were expecting. It's not a scary movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie because for me, I love the 70s exploitation movies and I love the 80s cheese. And this is definitely 80s cheese at its best. But I really think that he is in on the joke and he sort of made it like that.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you look at what was happening in film at that time too. Like you were saying, the slasher films were just really big, coming out of the 70s with Halloween, Friday the 13th, and all that. And he was, I think critics expected a lot bigger from Tobe Hooper, maybe coming out of Texas Chainsaw. This was the first movie he made after that, right?
No, after that he did a movie called Eaten Alive with Robert Englund, which is
That's
really
right,
good.
Alive, yes. So, but still, I think people were still expecting so much from him because of Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
And this movie has that sleazy feeling that Chainsaw had for sure. Like, I think.
Yeah.
And one thing that was also happening then is like every actor that was supposed to play a teenager looked like they were pushing 30. And that was like the biggest distraction from me was like there was the jockey teenager who looked like he was 30 and on steroids. Other than that, though, I thought the villain is fantastic.
Yeah, which I want to talk about is
he was a mime, right?
Yeah, Wayne Doty's a mime.
Yeah, okay, he was a mime, and that mask, the Frankenstein mask was great. Yeah. I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, if this dude wears that Frankenstein mask for the whole movie, that's just cool. Then it comes off and he's got the Two-Face thing happening. You know, the two faces.
Oh. Well, you know who did that was Rick Baker. He's one of my
all-time. That was Botine.
Nope, Rick Baker. Well, okay. It said Rick Baker, but you know what though? Rick Baker and Rob Bottin worked a lot together because
that's what I thought.
He started the thing. Yeah, they worked around that same time. 1982 was the thing, and those two worked together on that. So they might have helped out, but from what I read, it was Rick Baker. So he was. Rob Bottin was sort of coming up in
yeah. But I just remember like when the mask came off. I remember I've only seen the movie twice. Once like in high school, and then now to the show I rewatched it. And I remember when I saw it in high school, I was like, "Oh, that face!" Like I was creeped out. And I liked it. By the end of the movie, it was kind of goofy in a way. Yeah, that's what those movies were. But the kills were fun.
They were.
You know, they were inventive. Like the music was really good. Like I just think people wanted more from. Like people expected more from Indiana Jones in a way. People expected more from Tobe Hooper, and I don't know why they would expect more from a movie called Funhouse.
Exactly. I thought it had a great feel to it. It had that eeriness, and a lot of people that I know complained about the pacing, where it's the first kill doesn't happen until 40 minutes into the film out of an hour and a half. I really don't care. Yeah. I was with them the whole way from the very beginning. Where like I love like all those. Ominous warnings from the dad. You know, 2 people got killed in the funhouse. I went to the funhouse. Then also she goes,
beat him over the head with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like, well, then she goes, I don't know if you heard me, but 2 people got killed at the funhouse. It's like we heard you the first 5 times, but so you know what they're setting up for. It's the usual. Let's go party, let's have sex, and those were the movies of the 80s. Yeah, and it's exactly what we expected. And you know what's funny? I didn't even realize it until afterwards. I don't know why. The main girl, she played Stanza Mozart in Amadeus.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she played Costanza, his wife.
Huh.
Yep. And I said, wait a minute, why does she look so familiar? And I thought maybe I just remembered her from the movie. And I looked it up. I said, oh my God, that is her.
Wow. Because I can't think of anybody else in that movie that I've ever really seen in anything.
You know what's funny? The guy that played Richie, the one with the glasses, I was reading about him. Something to do with, I think his grandfather was a Steinway, and now he does something with piano. So he does, so there's like, they did a lot of like ABC after school specials or like some TV movies in that time.
I'm assuming that they hired regional actors for that too. It was like wherever I don't know where they made the movie, if they made it like in New York State or something. Wherever they made it, I'm assuming they brought actors in from that area as opposed to flying people in from Hollywood or whatever. They just cast locally, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Just based on the fact that I never really saw a lot of those people and other things.
Yeah. From what I saw, like most of the movies I looked that they were playing in was all around that time period, 1983, 1984. And after that, I didn't really see a lot. But a fun side note, former guest Leslie Donaldson on the Claus Corner also tried out, auditioned for Amadeus, and she didn't make it. But what happened was Meg Tilly got the part, and then she broke her leg, and then that's why they got this girl.
Yep. They should have called Leslie.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what she says. She goes, my phone wasn't ringing off the hook. I was waiting for it. She was, I would have played it.
Oh,
My favorite character in that movie, and I'll tell you why it's my favorite character, because he's so useless. I don't even know why they have him in the movie, is Brother Joey. He's just, I want to talk about him. First of
okay.
all, in the very beginning, it's obviously an homage or paying homage to Halloween with the mask, and then
Well,
Psycho
yeah,
with
that whole opening scene is Halloween and
Psycho.
Psycho. Yeah,
Yeah. But he's
which is
just a
great.
creep. He's like, I saw your titties. I'm going to
Yeah,
tell everybody. What brother says that about his sister?
a creepy little kid. Like
Yeah.
that would have been a great kid to like make Funhouse too. And you find out he's just some sort of pervert and runs a Funhouse now. You know, like
Well, that's what I thought. Not that premise, but I thought something was going to happen with that, because I'm going to kill you. Wait, you don't know when. And I said, all right, this is going to go. First time I saw it, I said, he's going to be he really had nothing to do with it. Then he
no,
follows them to the fun house. And this is the best part. Well, actually, in between, there's some weird parts that just go nowhere, where the guy with the gun, what are you doing, little boy?
there's some dragging, yeah. But that
Yeah.
like that whole subplot with him doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the best part is that the parents finally pick up the son. He knows that his sister's in there. He watched her go in, doesn't come out. He doesn't say a word. Like, all
Oh,
right, let's go home, Mom.
he's a little shit. He's a little shit. I mean, from the get-go, he's a little shithead, you know? Like,
And then it's funny.
oh,
I didn't realize it the first time I saw it, but I definitely noticed it was the guy who played the Barker. His name was Kevin Conway, the
he's
actor.
like every Barker, right?
Yes.
Like I caught that this time too. Like I'm like, I think that's the same guy. So then I like went and Wikipedia'd him and like I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, for
he's
some reason he said the only way he would play that role is if he got to play all the Barkers. I don't know why. I mean,
it just
he,
makes it a little weirder, and I like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
and Tobe Hooper was such a strange filmmaker.
yeah,
You know, like he definitely made weird movies his way. Look at Texas Chainsaw 2.
yes,
Like one of the greatest sequels of all time because it's just so off the rails. You know, like who cares about the feeling of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? About it was sleazy and dark. Let's go with part two and make this like big budget on sets and instead of locations and like make it look like we're using sets. Like it was just insane.
yeah.
And I think Funhouse is a great build up to that. If you follow his like canon, which I forgot about his second film, but if you follow, because Funhouse was like the first time he was like he was building his big sets to use, you know.
Yeah, he
Oh,
probably had a little bit of money. He's like, all right, let's go crazy. Let's have some
yeah,
fun.
and you can tell. I feel like when you're watching that movie too, you can tell like everybody involved was having a good time.
Yeah,
You know, they were all good. Like there was not a bad actor in it. Like everyone did a really good job in their role. Like they all knew what their part was and they did a good job. Like the girl in the shaft with the fan blowing when
yes,
she's begging for her life. That's like I thought that was like the most intense scene in the whole movie. As far as like the fear of the character, like she's genuinely terrified. Like Red, she did a really good job.
I was thinking the same thing too, because sometimes you see these movies and like these actors are so, it's just not genuine. It doesn't even
Right.
seem real. But they all seemed like they were, like you said, they were having fun. It seemed like that they were really terrified for their life, and it was so funny because like when I'm sure after that scene where he's with the gypsy, the fortune teller, and he has like she gives him the hand job for 3 seconds, and he gets mad. I said when he came to the girl, I said, "Oh my God, please tell me she's not going to give him a hand job."
That would have been hilarious. But I think but you're afraid she's gonna get out of it by trying to be his lover, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's how she escapes. And I was like, no, no, no. And then of course he just lays on top of her and kills her. But like, oh, I didn't want to see that. And that was no one wanted to see that. So it was
yeah,
better that he just killed her.
yeah,
But like that's another thing I wanted to bring up was how like he kills the woman because she won't give him his money back.
yeah. That was
The
funny.
character is brutal. The character is legit brutal. Like,
Yeah.
oh.
What's funny, even though the character is brutal, you still have some empathy for him. I think it's because his father is such an asshole.
And he's deformed, and he could have had a better chance at life had he not had this terrible carny life. You
Yeah, yeah.
know, I mean,
Did you ever see the movie? What's it called? Nightmare Alley with
no,
Bradley
I haven't.
Cooper and
I
Kate
can't,
Blanchett.
it's on my list. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I've heard it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The reason I brought
it's
that up
those
is
vibes.
it's very similar. I mean, not with the monster or anything. I'm not giving anything away by saying this, but it has that same carny feel and it has that same twist. It's a really good movie. And that's when I was watching that again this time, I'm like, that's what it reminded me of. And I love the fact that, I don't know, for some reason, movies about fun houses and haunted houses, I just enjoy.
Well, we're horror fans too, and that's a genre of like horror, like the haunted house or the fun house specifically, or the haunted house that's not really done as much anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they did a lot of it in the early, like the 90s and early 2000s. There was a handful, but no one's really doing that right now. You know,
Well,
you
I
get the
love that.
Paranormal Activity movies and all that bullshit, but that's
Nah,
no,
not the same. That's
no.
speaking of that. I love the opening sequence, not the brother with a knife. Before that, when they're showing all the different things from
Like the
the
title sequence, yeah,
yes, that was really well done.
that was.
And it's funny because you see if you watch or look at the poster, there's a clown popping up. That's the one thing that's not featured in the film. That's the one
There's
on the
the
poster.
clown. There's like the clown props, like the statues and the automatons, like those
Yeah.
little those moving statues in it. But there's no actual clown in the movie. Like that's like I remember like when I saw it in high school, we rented the videotape, and
Yep.
that was on the cover, and then and that was the thing we even talked about was like this was nothing what the movie art looked like on the cover. But that was VHS in the 80s and 90s too. Like they were just putting anything on these boxes to get you to rent them, especially in the 80s.
Oh my
Like,
God.
we could do
Yeah.
a whole episode on just 80s video stores, you know. But like,
I think we have to do
um,
that because I can
but
go
funny,
on and on about that.
a piece of trivia though is Tobe Hooper directed Billy Idol's "Dancing with Myself" music video,
I did not realize that.
and props from Funhouse, like those robotic clowns that you see throughout it, are in
Yep.
that video.
Yep.
He
Wow.
used props from the movie because I think he did it right around the same time, maybe right after the movie was made, and he kept a bunch of the stuff, and that's all in the music video.
Yeah. And just on that same line of thought, I did not realize this too, that I saw a documentary on Dio. I didn't realize Coscarelli directed The Last in Line.
Yeah, isn't that cool when you find like these cool directors like did music
Yeah.
videos? Like, yeah,
Yeah, that is really cool. I like Toby Hooper. I don't think he's like a great director, but he gets the job done. He does what he knows he knows what he's good at, and he does it well. I mean, like I love
he
Eaten
had his
Alive. We mentioned Robert Englund. I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I
yeah.
like Poltergeist. I mean, the movies he's done, I like, and they're not, to me, they're not great movies. I think I'd have had to pick all out of any of them. Poltergeist was my all-time favorite out
Okay,
of his
I'd probably
movies.
go with that too. Yeah,
Yeah, and even though, like I said, there's a lot of talk that Spielberg had a lot of say in that at the time, but who really cares? It was a good, his name's on the marquee, and
yeah. Spielberg was busy making E.T. too, wasn't he? Around the same time.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I know that Tobe Hooper was offered E.T. That was another piece of trivia I found out when I was watching the movie. Like, is Tobe Hooper? That's one of the rumors. He was offered to direct E.T. because Spielberg thought he'd be too busy. Because Spielberg had a soft spot for him. He loved Texas Chainsaw, I guess.
Yeah.
And but he turned it down to make Funhouse
Wow.
because he'd rather
That's
do
smart.
horror. And Spielberg ended up doing E.T., which actually was probably the best choice.
I,
Because
yeah.
I mean that made Spielberg's career. I mean Raiders was like Jaws was huge, and you know, but and Raiders was even bigger, and then E.T. was like, but that was E.T.'s like that movie that you know.
I'm no fortune teller, but I'm guessing that was the correct move too.
Yes, yeah. For both of them, I think though, too. 'Cause I don't think Tobe Hooper would have made a good E.T.
No, definitely not.
Poltergeist, yes, you know, but E.T. that wasn't for him. I can't
No,
imagine doing a family film, you
yeah,
know.
no. I'm glad. Like, sort of, Spielberg's smart like that because he knew they wanted him to do Spider-Man. He goes, "That's not my thing." I'm
Yeah,
sure that there's some, and luckily they gave it to Sam Raimi, who that is his thing.
he knocked those the movies out of the park, you know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't think there's been a better Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2.
Nope. I mean, I watched maybe one more with Andrew Garfield, but that was about it.
Yeah,
I've only stuck with the
I shouldn't
Raimi
say
ones.
I can't say there isn't one because I've never watched any of them, but
Yeah, they're not.
I'm burnt out on Marvel, so
You and me both. We
I'm
talked
burnt out.
about that
Like
in several episodes.
I know this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I went to see Cocaine Bear last week.
Oh, how was that?
Thumbs up all the way.
Really?
Oh my god, it's so much fun because it knows what it is. It's a
Okay.
B movie with A-list actors, and it's supposed to be a B movie with A-list actors, and it's played completely straight, but it's a comedy.
Okay.
But all the actors play it with a straight face. They say the jokes. There's jokey moments, but it is played straight, as if this bear is really on cocaine chasing people around. And when you play it straight, is what makes it funny. It's very Evil Dead 2 like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like that kind of vibe, where the gore is over the top when there is gore too. But it's amazing movie. So far, the best movie I've seen this year
Okay. Wow.
out of
Because
new
I've
movies.
heard
Like
I've heard
I was
different.
I was so entertained by it. It was so much fun, and everyone was. It was Ray Liotta's last film too, and he was
Yeah.
amazing in his part. Everyone did a great job. I'm so glad I went to see it. But as I was leaving the theater, I went with Ricky Passmore.
Yeah.
And him and I were leaving, and we were just like, it's so good to see an original movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Marvel made me think of this in a world where everything right now is a sequel, a side
Yeah.
story, a reboot, a remake, or in the same universe as something else. And here was an original movie that didn't tie into anything else. Like
Yeah.
that was great. That part of what made me happy. And we saw a couple trailers for other new movies. It was like, oh, thank God not everything's a sequel or a side story from another Marvel movie or DC movie, or like it's just its own thing.
There's a movie that I had a similar experience with, and it's called Megan.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Actually, I kept putting it off,
It's a
and it's
great
on
movie.
Paramount now, I think, right? I think it's on
Maybe I don't have
Paramount.
Paramount. I saw it in the theaters when it came out. It's just a fun movie, but
Yeah.
it's original.
Ricky actually said that if like you, because I was like, I haven't seen Megan yet. He's like, oh, it's finally streaming. You should check it out, especially if you like Cocaine Bear. And I'm like, I did. He's like, then you're gonna love Megan too. I'm like, all right. So Ricky would recommend Cocaine Bear to you because you love Megan for sure.
Okay,
And
well, you know what? I was hesitant to see it because the trailer just looks so stupid. And now, but no, what you're telling me, that I appreciate that, and I know that they know that they're in on the joke. And they're not trying to make a serious movie where it seemed like it was too slapsticky for me at first.
It's not even slapsticky, which is great. It's not even slapsticky, which is it's just over the top at times because of what the plot is. I mean, it's a bear whacked out on coke. It's gonna be funny, you know. All the actors play it straight. They play it strong. There's even a couple of known comedic actors in it, but they're playing their parts as straight as they should, based on the part, So it's I mean, I recommend it. But anyways, we got on a tangent. We always do. That's what this show.
We always do. I'm surprised it's already been almost 35 minutes, and we haven't talked about Kevin Smith yet. But
well, we got to do an episode about that, especially after Clerks 3 coming out last year. So.
Oh yeah, which you and I both loved. So we definitely have to do a Clerks. But I want to talk about more of the Funhouse because there was so many weird scenes in that movie. Another scene is remember in the beginning when she's like, I can't believe you're going out so late. No, respectable guy. What time is it? Well, it's after 9. So they got to the Funhouse around 9 o'clock. But no, I'm bringing this up for a reason. Because remember when they see the magician that does one trick, and I'll see you in 2 hours. Yeah. And his daughter is like, all right. So they got there about 9:30. Maybe the magician went out at 10 o'clock. Next show in 2 hours. How long does this Funhouse last?
Is this Funhouse open? Is this fair open? This carnival, whatever it is. It's a carnival, right? It was a carnival.
Yeah, carnival, yeah.
Is this open 24 hours? Like I've gone to carnivals. I've been to fair. They usually kick you out around 10 o'clock.
I know.
11 o'clock.
So,
like
the one trick that he did, he might be doing alone with his daughter because no
one else is going to be. Well, everyone's getting killed. No one's going to be there. I didn't even think about that, but you're so right. The timing is just off. They should have got there at like 6. It should have been respect. You're skipping dinner to go to the Funhouse. It should have been that. Not. Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's great. But that's because you've paid more attention to the movie than I have. Because it was your choice for this.
I got a chance. Well, I originally saw it in '81. I think before HBO there was something called the Movie Channel. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I had when I was a kid growing up. We had that before we had HBO. Yeah, we had HBO. Then we changed the Movie Channel. Where my parents switched because Movie Channel was cheaper or something like that. Then we ended up getting HBO and the Movie Channel. So
I think I saw it in the Movie Channel. But then in 2005, there was I was going out with a girl that I met in Transylvania. She was on tour. She lived in Texas. So I went down to Texas to see her. But they had a convention. It was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre convention. Tobe Hooper.
So of course they were showing the movie at that then, right?
So I saw the Funhouse there in the theater.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was really cool to see it on the big screen, and I love watching because this is what I always talk about. It's a lot of times I interview people who are in the horror field. And it's like I love the community and the family feeling that everybody gets along. Everybody's like so. Yes. And watching a horror movie with a bunch of people that all like the same thing, everybody's clapping, cheering, having fun. And that's what it was like watching the Funhouse.
That's awesome. That's the Cocaine Bear. People were screaming at the theater, and that was great.
All right, I'm gonna be checking that out.
Or like I went to see a revival of one of the Evil Dead movies. I can't remember the first or second one, but everyone was there because they'd already seen it. It was the same thing. The camaraderie, everyone was excited. I love that, and you don't get that in a lot of other genres.
No.
You don't get everyone wanting to be friends when they meet. You like horror movies too? Hugs, like you don't get that. Like, you like rom-coms? We're best friends now. That doesn't happen,
No. Yeah, just like those like the cons and also the Marvel conventions, things like that. It's just people it seems like they're just like, I don't know, it's not as friendly because I talked to Victoria Price And she said the same thing. She goes, I was so afraid. She goes, oh my God, these people are going to be wackos. She goes, they're the nicest people. She goes, I felt so home. So everybody was so friendly to me. I was like, I don't want to leave. I love coming there every year. So
I used to be a huge comic collector, and I'd go to all the Comic Cons and all that. I always had a good time at them and all that. But it felt like there was competition there sometimes, just
yeah.
to be there. You know, especially with like the cosplayers. Like, look at my outfit. They didn't even care what the character was. They didn't know anything about the character. They're just dressed up as the character because they liked the way they looked. They never
Yeah.
read the comic in their life. You know, but at the horror cons, if somebody shows up dressed like Jason Voorhees, they know every single bit of trivia. And if they don't know every single bit of trivia, it's because they're still learning and they want to learn. They're not just doing it because Jason looks cool.
Yeah, no,
That might be why they watched Friday the 13th in the first place, because the hockey mask scared them. They thought it was cool.
yeah.
But now they're obsessed with it, you know, and that's, you know, I'm not dissing anybody for their hobbies or anything either. Cosplay is fucking cool. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I have an Indiana Jones hat. I have another one there and two more over there. I'm a nerd for certain things, but like, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not dissing them either, but I was just saying, like, I've talked to a lot of people, and
horror cons are always the friendliest, is where I'm going with. Like, oh my God.
I've been to Chiller, Fangoria, Rock and Shock, Spooky World, and just I go there every year, be like, hey, Rich. I'm like the same people, and you see them, you become friends, and you're like, you coming next year? I was like, all right, I'll see you then.
Elmwood, we had a booth at the one in Connecticut, the CT Horror Con, CT Horror Fest.
Yes.
2016 or 17 we did the booth. I can't remember what year. I think it was 16.
I think it was 16.
DVDs. It was 16. We were selling head DVDs, you know, and we sold out. We did really well. Everyone was super friendly, super nice. I went to it. I missed it this past year, but last year I went just to go and just to go for a day. I went to the con, bought my ticket, was walking around like everybody else, buying goodies, having a good time, you know, and somebody came up to me like, are you the guy that made the Head movie?
Wow.
And I was like, why? Like, I don't want to get punched out. You know? He's like, oh my God, I bought a DVD off you last time. I'm like, oh yeah, that was me. He's like, I love that movie. But people remember too. That was the thing, people remember, like, you know. Yep. And my beard is bigger and whiter than it was in 2016, and I probably weigh 15 pounds more than I did. But the guy remembered me, you know. And that was kind of cool. And I was like, thanks, man. And we had just re-released the movie on a new DVD, and I had a couple copies in my bag. I'm like, here, have the new one. He's like, oh, buy it, Buffy. I'm like, no, man, you already bought it once. Here's the new commentary. Just being like, just because he was nice, you know.
Yeah. No, see that's cool, and that he's gonna remember that, and then he's gonna tell his friends like, oh man, I met the guy from Elmwood Productions, man, you gotta check his stuff out, and so
that's what the horror genre, is just way friendlier, I think, than like as far as the fan base than anything else I've dealt with, you know.
Yeah.
There's no competition. People just want to hang out. They want to talk movies. They want to share their knowledge. They want to learn. Like, and they want to make their crazy costumes. And they want to make the blood and gore effects. And they want to, like, it's such a hands-on fan base too.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you said, it's like in some of the other ones, it's more of a competition. And this one, like, oh man, cool. Can I get a picture with you choking me? Can you get a picture when you're stabbing me? It's like, I have so many pictures from people that aren't even in the convention. They're just part of it. I mean, they're just walking around like, hey, I want to get a picture with you. I love that costume.
Yeah.
I have no idea who they are. Yeah.
Oh
like
man.
The next, are you on a different note, are you going to be at the Connecticut Horror Fest it's October, I think, September,
October, doing it in Hartford this year at the
I heard that. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I'm going to go one of the days. Let's work it out, man. Let's go together.
Yeah, most definitely. I was just talking to somebody last night, and they were telling me it was at the XL Center. I said, wow, I didn't realize
it got that big.
Yeah, I think maybe part of it is because the Rock and Shock is out now, and then some of the other ones in this area are no longer. So
really? They're not doing Rock and Shock anymore?
No, it's a shame. I mean, it's sad. Like the first year I went, they had Roddy McDowell, Christopher Lee, and then by the last year I went, it was more like, he was the key grip in Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
the movie.
So
I mean, like some years you're gonna get good guests, some years you're not. The pandemic probably didn't help either, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't even know who they have. Actually, the internet. Let's find out. Who do they have coming to that this time? Let's see if I can find.
I know there's one person I know.
We don't need to give them an ad right now. They can.
Yeah, well, I know one person because I went to the Strand Theater. This is where I met the guest, Peter Anthony. He's going to be so I saw his movie, but then they were talking about that, and I guess the guy who plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier movies.
I did see that actually. Yeah, that's a big one because those two movies are huge right now. That's a big guest.
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna be going there, talking to him, doing some name dropping. Well, I'm sure if
Awesome.
if Michael Levy did the podcast, I'm sure like
I mean, yeah, he produced it, right?
yeah, he produced it
Terrifier,
and
yeah.
co-directed it with Damian Leone. So
There you go.
and
So I'm sure you can
they
put in a
also
good
worked
word.
together in some other movies.
I'm sure you can put in a good word to get him on the show if it goes
Yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah. So that's
I just
but that
edited that one this morning.
oh good. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Thanks.
what's funny is like, did you see that movie
I saw
Terrifier 2?
Terrifier, but I haven't seen Terrifier 2.
I like Terrifier 2 better, and it was
That's
funny because
yeah, I heard it's just had a better story overall too.
and it's
But I haven't seen
definitely
it yet.
it's sort of like what you said about Cocaine Bear. It's like they don't take it seriously, and it's so over
That's
the
why I liked
top.
it. It was
The
so just extreme. And
yeah,
yeah.
and
And not like extreme the 90s. No, it was just like extreme, like over yeah, it was yeah, I liked it a lot. It was a lot of, I was very entertained. I don't go to every movie. I think we've talked about this in the past, maybe not in the show, but I don't walk into every movie wanting high art or wanting the super quality. I just want to be entertained. Just want to be
exactly.
entertained. And as long as I'm entertained, it's gonna get a thumbs up. Even if it was like the worst acting I've ever seen, or like it could be as long as I had a good time watching it, it gets a thumbs up.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
like
that's one of the reasons I told you is I love the 80s cheese and I love the 70s exploitation. The acting for the most part is horrible, though. It's just so entertaining. And I know exactly what it is and what they're trying to do. And I'm not
going
looking for,
going
like you
back to
said,
Funhouse. Yeah, but yeah, bringing it back to Funhouse. Like, you knew what you were going to see when you walked into that theater in
yeah,
1981. I was 6. I didn't see it in 81. I saw it when I was like 14 in 89,
yeah,
but like going back to that though, like you know what you're getting into, you know what you're gonna get. Even now, if you rented it now, anybody's watching this and says, "I want to see that movie now," which you should. If you like horror movies, or if you like Tobe Hooper, if you just check it out. It's fun. The same era, we're saying that the acting's not gonna be great and all that is one of my favorite horror movies that people always forget about is My Bloody Valentine.
I love that movie.
It's the Canadian slasher film,
Yep.
eh? Like,
Yep.
and the acting in that has like two different levels. There's this really naturalistic and you believe the characters, and then some of the background characters that aren't the main people are so over the top hokey,
Yep.
and their performing is over the top hokey because they're the good old boy, and it's just like, and then but what I loved about those movies, and Funhouse falls in this category too, is the music in those movies were sometimes so out of place. They would never get away with like some of the things they did then. Now, like horror movies always have to have big scary scores now. Evil
Yeah.
Dead 2 soundtrack ends with like a ragtime jazz song.
I love that.
Exactly. But like look at but My Bloody Valentine, like the opening song is like this fun banjo tune as they're all driving to the bar after work, like now it would have to be like some Slipknot song that's still energetic, but it's metal,
Yeah.
so it's scary. I'm not dissing Slipknot. I'm just saying like that's
Yeah.
where they'd go with the movies now. Like
I know. Well, it's funny is I
unless
never heard of him
Funhouse had
before.
great music, is where I was kind of bringing
Yeah,
it back.
I never heard of him, but I looked him up. His name is John Beal. He was the composer, and that was the
Yeah.
first thing I noticed from that opening scene. I said, because lately I've been noticing the music a lot more since I recently went to, I don't know if I mentioned it on the air already, but I saw the best of John Williams,
Yeah, you saw it. Yeah,
so New Jersey. So ever since then, then I rewatched a documentary entitled Score, which is all different composers.
that's a great movie.
It
Yeah,
is. And I saw it before and I saw it, but now I've been so in tune with the music, thinking, because like you realize how much the music makes the movie and how
you
integral of a part it is.
you pull the music out, and sometimes the suspense is gone.
Yes.
Sometimes the things that make you laugh are gone, even because they're stingers. So they're just that those things that hit you with the music. A score is so important. Can you imagine what Star Wars would be like without the music?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well,
Boring,
and I just saw an
It's John
interview.
Williams.
So I saw an interview with John Williams, and they said somewhere they wanted to, they showed the scene of from one of the Indiana Jones movies. It was 8 minutes long, and then they said, "All right, let's play with the music." John, I think, did with the Boston Pops, and people were saying like, "Oh my God, this is so boring without the music." And they said the music. It seemed like the scene was going on and on and on. Then the music came in, everybody's cheering.
Elevates it. Yep.
Yeah,
And if music is a character, it really is. Like I'm a big music junkie. I have a couple thousand CDs and hundreds of records. Like you know that I'm a big.
yeah,
You're a music guy too. I mean, you were in
yeah, yeah,
bands too. So but I love film scores. I buy film scores all the time. Like I'm
yeah.
still actively buy. If I love a movie, I'm buying the soundtrack. Like love a movie. Like I'm not gonna buy the Cocaine Bear soundtrack, but like unless I found it used for like $2. But I'm not running out to get that one. But like you know, like I have a lot of John Williams scores. I have all the Indiana Jones ones and the expanded versions and the extended versions, and I have E.T. and I have some of the Star Wars soundtracks and a lot of Danny Elfman. I'm a big Danny Elfman fan. I was also a huge Oingo Boingo fan, but like movie music is just, I love it. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's
Speaking of
funny.
Evil Dead, I was just listening to Evil Dead 2 score on vinyl a couple days ago.
Oh, really? I haven't. Yeah, I remember one time when I was over your house and you were playing the Evil Dead soundtrack. I said, "All
Yeah.
right, this is cool." But no, I haven't bought a soundtrack in a long time. But when I in the '70s and '80s, I used to buy the Deep, Jaws, Close Encounters,
Oh yeah.
E.T., Star Wars. So I would buy all of them. Jerry Goldsmith, John Barry, and you know what's funny because I just watched that documentary as I mentioned, and I didn't realize Hans Zimmer was in that band. Video killed the
Oh, he was
radio
in
star.
the
He was the drummer.
Buggles? Was he? That's cool.
I did
I
not
didn't know
realize
that.
that.
Yeah, I
So I
didn't
know
know that.
that obviously Danny Elfman was an Oingo Boingo. I knew that, but I did not realize that Hans Zimmer came from a band too.
That's cool. That's really cool. I mean, like, and then the Mark Mothersbaugh
Yep.
scores tons of movies and TV shows, and he's the main guy in Devo. Like,
Yep.
you know,
I know. I love Diva. So that's another band that most people are like, these guys suck. No,
because
they're
all
actually
they
really
know is
good.
Whip It. All they know is Whip It. That's why they don't know anything
Yeah.
else. And if you actually listen to Devo, they're so good. They're doing a farewell tour, I think, right now.
Oh, really? No, I
Yeah, they're
didn't. I
doing
didn't
like a
realize that.
yeah. They're
I
still
have
they're still together.
on Amazon Music. It's I have classic punk, and they play a lot of Devo on there. It's like every
Good,
time I'll be jamming in my car, just
nice. Yeah, I'm a Devo guy. Mongoloid.
oh, and then we're
Can you
through
even use that
being
word
cool.
anymore? What?
And I said the other one was like, we're through being cool.
Yes.
Another one.
Be stiff.
Yeah. So I don't know how
Oh,
people can hate Devo, but another one that did some sounds or some scores, I mean, was Stuart Copeland from the Police.
yeah, yeah. He did the speaking of Star Wars, he did the theme songs for the Droids animated series,
Yep.
which is just funny. But he did a bunch of scores too. Yeah, I mean, like music is music.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's so for you, when let's talk about your movies for a minute. Like who does the music in your movies?
This well, like Josh and Todd, we've done 3 feature films. You know,
Okay.
so I'll just talk about those 3. Josh and Todd was the first one. Todd is actually right there. The original puppet, what's left of him is right there. But Josh and Todd, we didn't have a score. We used local. We always try to use musicians we know, and we just had like a bunch of local bands contribute songs, and then Russ, who was editing the film, also did just some light keyboard stuff here and there to fill in some blanks. But overall, it was just local bands that we knew or that we were friends with or that wanted to get a song in a movie. Skip ahead to Bernice, or skip ahead to Head. The one of the puppeteers of the film named Nick, he really wanted to make the music. He's a guitarist. He really wanted to pitch music for the movie, and I mean, I'm not telling secrets here. When or I'm not talking out of line even, but when the time came to actually score the film, what he did wasn't exactly what he pitched to me, and I
Mhm.
wasn't exactly happy, but it worked. And the reason why it worked is because the rhythm. He had a drummer named Mike Finland, and you know Mike. Mike's one of my
Yeah.
lead puppeteers. Mike's a really good drummer. Nick brought Mike in to play drums on these songs he was doing, which was just tone, noises of tone, you know, which was still kind of cool, but it wasn't what he told me he was going to do. And
Yeah.
when he pitched to me and played for me a little bit, but Mike's drumming really pulled the whole thing together, and it
Oh,
was like
good.
that with that rhythm. When you go back and watch the movie now, when you hear the rhythm, there's all that like wailing guitar, but when this intensity comes up and you hear the drums, you're like, oh yeah, I get it now. And then the closing credits song was this big, like I wanted like either like something like going back to the 80s where they had like a song that didn't really fit for a closing credit song. I wanted Moonlight in Vermont by Sinatra, but obviously you can't. I couldn't
Yeah.
afford that. And Nick said he was gonna write like a song like that. I'm like, great, do it. He never did, but he wrote like this metal song, which is the other end of the spectrum, you know. And we had this kid named Mike Verone come in, who was just this really amazing guitar player, and he came in and just wailed the guitar solos over the whole thing.
I love it.
It's cool. So I want to name drop him in case he ever sees it because he did such a good job. He's such a fun dude. And I hadn't even met him yet. I met him after the fact, and now I'm buddies with him, and I'm just like, I forget that he's the guy who did that sometimes. And then we did, and then Bernice was the same thing. We went back and we reached out to bands we knew, and we were like, hey, does anybody want to do this, want to do that? We had some people who wanted music videos made, so like, we'll trade you the song to make you the video.
Yeah.
You know, like. And then there was one artist named Arthur Benson who we used his album as the score for Bernice too. We pulled the vocals off a bunch of his tracks, and just use the instrumental tracks throughout the film. So we haven't really had a full-blown film score yet like that, but our films haven't needed it yet. Head 2 is coming.
All right.
We're
Definitely
gonna
looking
need a
forward to
real
that. Well, you have a whole series with that, don't you? Like Head 2, Head 3.
We're making 3. We're making 2 more. Part 2 is pretty much done being written. I think we're doing one more polished draft on it. And then part 3, me and some other writer are going to be working on that script to get it up to par. So you're hearing that first here on on Real Talk. You're hearing that first on Real Talk, that Rich Sear, the writer of Confessions of a Frenetic Mind, will be helping write Head 3.
And you know what's funny? We'll talk about this off the air, but I definitely want to get together again sometime. Then we got together once, a couple. Yes, I love. I am all about self-promotion.
But yeah, we'll get together. We got to get together because I got to get you to a meeting soon, anyways. Talking about business for a minute, because we're actually actively bringing that project back. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, so we did it once, and it was a couple years ago, and then both life gets in the way. We both got busy, and then
Bernice got in the way.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Bernice, I want to get back to the music because that band you had there was awesome. I love that band.
Strawberry Machine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Robert C. Fulton's another one. And you know what? It's genius what you do too, in a way, because you use local musicians, and then they're happy to be in a movie. Because I was out a couple of times with Robert C. Fulton at a couple of parties, and I hear him talking. It's like, yeah, my music was featured in a movie, and so he was just so happy. So he's over there.
We used him in the Risley Brothers too. He did the theme song to the show.
Yeah,
we used one of his songs for the theme. He's such a sweet guy. I like him.
Oh, he is. Yeah, no, I like him. He's a really good guy, and he was so proud to be in that movie, and he was telling everybody because it was right.
Cool.
I went to Red Room Sound Studios, and he was there, and it was right after the premiere. So we were talking about the premiere, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, I think Rich knows I'm in a movie." It's like, "Yo, no, it's a great movie. You got to check it out." And then we were talking about that for a while.
We went to Pennsylvania in January to show Bernice a screening in Pennsylvania, and that's where Arthur Benson's from, who was like the guy who did the score for the film. So we had him do the same thing we did with Strawberry Machine at the premiere. We had him play.
I love it.
That was cool because it was the same week his album came out, or like within a week of when his album came out, or 2 weeks, something like that. So he got to promote his album and play. It was his first show he played like pre-pandemic too.
Wow.
So I mean, I think that was the first show Strawberry Machine had done since the pandemic too, like last year. So can't believe Bernice has been out for a year now.
I know. Like when you texted me the other night and said, "Rich, we're having our 1-year anniversary."
Bernice birthday party.
Yeah. I was so mad. I was too busy watching Frankenhooker.
No, dude. There's nothing wrong with Frankenhooker. So
I love that movie. Then this, you brought up a great point. You're like, Rich, there has to be a Real Talk. I agree.
Yes. I have a story about that I'm going to save for that episode. Because we always tell the stories how we saw the movie.
Yep.
I have an amazing Frankenhooker story that it's teenage chaos. So, and Frankenhooker was involved.
Well, I'm already looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah,
this one's not even over yet.
No, I mean, what I'm going to say is not just us talking about 2 movies we need to defend. We're actually catching up to on what Real Talk is. So
yeah.
No, so that's good. Just talking movies, man. Just talking.
Oh, definitely.
Movies.
I could talk about movies, and well, that's how you and I became friends. I first interviewed you, and then next thing you know, we're like, we should do a show together.
Have you seen Studio 666 yet?
Yes, I love that movie.
Okay, good.
It's hilarious.
If you like that, then you'll like Cocaine Bear. It's the same type of vibe. It's very much the same type of vibe.
Yeah, okay. Now,
they could have been maybe the same people. They weren't, but they could have been easily. Yeah. You
sold me on it because I loved that movie for all the same reasons you said you love Cocaine Bear. Yeah. And Dave, I always liked Dave Grohl. I think that for me, out of the 3 people that were in Nirvana, he was the most talented, and I love what he's doing now. It's just
I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan, more so than Nirvana ever. Like, not anything bad about Nirvana. I just never really got into them.
No, me neither. That's why. So we can get to another conversation where I know why they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but
they were so influential. Yeah,
exactly. They were like at the right place at the right time. But Dave Grohl, not only that with like his talent, but I just like his whole attitude about everything. He never takes anything seriously. And I like the fact that he gets into these little social media quote unquote fights with these 12-year-old girls, and he brings them up on stage. And
that was like he's just positivity. He's so full of positivity. That's what's and he's fun. He's having fun. Yes. He takes his music seriously, but he's having fun.
Exactly.
if I was in that situation, like if I was that well known and had that kind of power in the industry he's in, I would definitely be bringing positive things to it too. You know?
I know, me too. I always say the same thing too. Sometimes I go to these conventions, I see these people that are so miserable. I said, if I was known for just one thing, I would be the most gracious and happy.
Right.
I'd be like, come on, because I know what it means to them just to be like, hey man, I got to hang out with Rich and Jon. You like if we were big time celebrities at there, but some people just sit there like, okay,
Yeah.
like, then what are you even doing there?
I would be grateful that I could even be there.
Exactly.
Like, and even if I get bored, give me a coffee, I'll wake up. Like I had a coffee at 3 o'clock today because I knew we were doing this, and I'm like, all right, coffee. Who knows how long this is going to go? It's me and Rich. It could be 40 minutes. It could be 3 hours. We don't know. Like, well,
that's what I love about
we're,
this show.
Like we're kind of recapping because we haven't done an episode in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, fans, people watching this, by the way, the reason why Real Talk didn't happen wasn't because we didn't want to do episodes. It was because Rich was killing it. I'm going to point at you now. So you're on this side of my screen, but you're on this side if you're watching.
Yeah.
Rich was killing it with his other two shows, and Claw's Corner and Local Artist Show you were always recording episodes, and I was making a movie and promoting a movie. So we were and then I did Jungle Woman right after. So we just didn't have a break to do this.
Yep.
And if we started doing it, it would have been like, now we got to stop again. Then we got to start again. So it's more fun to take the break and come back and mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
And not have a set schedule too, which is good. I love that we put your stuff out once we get this episodes going. Every week-ish, really.
Yeah. Which I wanted to do.
A little break in the beginning of the year, which makes sense, like take a breather and then start hitting hard again.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, we're recording. It's March 6th. I already have episodes through April, so I'm definitely more than caught up. So
I got the list right here. Yeah. So this one, if you're watching this on March 6th, it'll be 20 days from today. It'll be online March 26th. So hi, March 26th. Hi, future.
Hello. What do you want to say to your future self, Jon?
Get a haircut. Look at this. If you haven't cut it in the past 20 days, Jon, do it now. This is your reminder. Getting a little. Part of me wants to let it go and see how Art Garfunkel I can get.
I could be Paul Simon.
Right, there we go. But the thing is, I let it go like over the winter at one point, like a little bit. And it was maybe like this much longer, and I was just so annoyed with it. Like I haven't had long hair since my 20s.
That's funny.
Hair. We both had the hair,
Oh yeah, no, you've seen my mullet.
Yeah. Oh, you've seen mine. Like we had glorious bad hair, but like I just don't know if I can do it. Part of me wants to, but then it's just like when I wake up with bedhead and I'm a bald guy, it's time to cut your hair.
That's funny. But I really think we should do a Simon and Garfunkel tribute band.
There we go. Have you ever, unrelated to everything, ever heard of Garfunkel and Oates?
No.
All right, look them up. It's you know who Ricky Lindholm is, right? The actress.
Yeah.
She's Garfunkel and Kate McCucci is Oates, and they do like silly folk songs. Like R-rated silly folk songs together. And they had a show on IFC, I think, for a little while. It's funny. You ever watch Flight of the Conchords? Imagine that, but with the two of them.
Okay.
It's so fun. They're playing like cartoon versions of themselves. It's really funny.
All right.
They put out some music, which is really fun.
See, that's why I love this show. I find out about all these new things.
Yeah, look up Garfunkel and Oates. They have a song. No, I can't even say it on the show. They have some raunchy songs.
Two of the most underrated musicians I know.
There you go. That's why they called themselves that. Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, unrelated to everything. But
No, you know what? So I mean, I love the movie. Like I said, it's not the best movie, but
Back to Funhouse. Yeah, let's recap. Yeah, Back in Funhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's another movie nowhere near the success of Indiana Jones, but I mean, it had a budget of $3 million. It grossed $7.8 million. It was not a flop. It definitely did what it was supposed to do. It entertained me, and I would definitely. I mean, I'm not looking for a remake on this, but
there probably has been, and we don't even know. Everything is fucking remade. What I like about Funhouse, I think it was just a forgotten film. It came out in between the two Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and before Poltergeist 2. I think people just kind of forgot about it, and that's a drag because it is a lot of fun. That's why we're doing this episode now to kind of maybe remind people that movie is there. I'm gonna look that up later and find out if there ever was a cheesy.
I know we talked about this, but did you see the movie Eaten Alive with Robert Englund?
I did, yeah. Like back in high school again too. Like I forgot that was a Tobe Hooper until you mentioned it.
this might open up a brand new conversation, but I want your opinion on this because there's a line in that movie,
Which
and
one?
with Robert Englund goes, "My name is Buck, and I'm raring the fuck." So the reason I bring that up was years later, I'm watching Kill Bill. All of
Yes,
a sudden
that
I
was
hear,
definitely a throwback to that.
all right, so that's the question I have for you. Do you think that he does? I know he's a huge fan of all these movies. Do you think it's more of a throwback, or do you think he's ripping people off?
I
Like,
think he's doing it to get people's attention, to bring attention to those movies.
okay,
That's why Uma Thurman wears Bruce Lee's outfit in that movie.
oh yeah, well
The
that
yellow and black. That is to make people go, oh, that's from that. I gotta watch that movie again, or I gotta tell my friend about that movie. Or somebody who's never heard of that movie now goes, what is that from? Oh, that's from that. I want to check that movie out. I think he's doing it to bring attention to the movies he likes. He's definitely he wears his influences on his sleeve proudly.
oh my God, yeah, no, he
No.
says all the time. He goes, yeah,
Yeah.
I borrow from a lot of different things.
Yeah, and so I don't think he's if he was to make if Robert Englund was in that movie and gave that line, it would have been cheesy.
Yeah,
You know, it would have been like, oh Jesus, really? You know, like that was the best you could do. But having other characters say it and it's so out of context because these movies have nothing in common.
yeah.
You know that. No, I don't think he's. I think he's throwing tribute. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's. I was just curious of your
And
opinion.
I remember like me and my friends would say that line to each other all the time. After
I
that
know,
movie.
me too.
So like that's when it was in people's lexicon in the 80s and the early 90s. Probably we were just saying that because it was obnoxious to say. So that this guy probably has seen that movie 100 times. You know that character Buck, and his name is Buck. So he's of course
Well, he and Roger Avery have a great podcast called Video Archives because
Yes.
everybody knows that they grew up working there, and so
Yep.
that's all the videos that they used to rent there. And so there's actually what I'm doing is I have a membership with Hamden Best Video. So a lot of these movies I've already seen, but it's sort of like what you just said, like, wow, I want to go rewatch that again. And I've been doing that a lot lately where they'll be talking about a movie and I'm like, wow, you know what? I got to see that movie. I'm trying to think of one of the last ones I did was there was a couple of George C. Scott movies that I've seen from years ago. They were really good, and then another one was Alice, Sweet Alice. That's the last one I rented.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, see, I even saw that movie in so long. Brooke Shields is in it for maybe 30 seconds, but
for like a minute, yeah.
Yeah. Because that was right after what's that one movie that she was really popular in? Some I don't know, whatever it was that made her really that just came out, so that's why they've put her name on the marquee.
Yeah, to make it, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So like, yeah, I've been doing that. I like that podcast, and his book is really good too.
I gotta get his book. I've been meaning to buy it and just keep putting. I have like 4 other books on the shelf I haven't read. One of them is Kevin Smith's Secret Stash book that came out last year. I still haven't read that. Dave Grohl's book. I still haven't read that.
Have you read Confessions of a Frenetic Mind by Rich?
I've read half of Connections of a Frenetic Mind. We're going to be adapting one of those stories as an Elmwood short film. So.
All right, so you only read half of it. So do you? I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think for you? What would be the easiest or best story to adapt? I think it might be. My opinion might be the Haunted House one, but I don't know.
I don't know. I think Taking Care of Business could be a lot of fun.
That would be funny. I love that story.
The Lincoln House Massacre. That's the Haunted House one, right?
Yeah.
I haven't read that one yet. But I think Taking Care of Business would be fun, and Robbie's Revenge would be like the easiest to do, I think. But
yeah.
I think because I've read the Robbie's Revenge, Can't Catch a Break, and Taking Care of Business.
Yeah, the last one's a little bit more for
The Dark Secret.
Yeah, that's a little bit more intricate. So I think it would be like, I mean, but you could do it. You've obviously done it in other movies, but
yeah,
I was just curious.
That's the longest one in the book too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This is Rich's book, by the way, for those of you who don't know. It's available now on Amazon. There'll be a link in this video at the end or maybe in the middle or somewhere. There'll be a link underneath here too, right now.
And it goes great with a hoodie, a shirt, or a phone case.
Or a phone case. Or you can hold on. Let's do all the plugs while we're here.
Why not? We don't have to wait for the plugs at the end of the show. We'll just do it now.
Or you can go on elmwoodproductions.com and get yourself a copy of Bernice 2, our newest film, which we have. They're limited edition, so when these sell out, there's no more. It's something with this with Head, and we have a couple. We can get like Steve the Vampire and Josh and Todd still too. But yeah,
and
get them while you can.
Where can people see that if they want to stream it?
Head. If you go to elmwoodproductions.com, there's a ton of links. It's on YouTube on a few different channels. Kings of Horror has it. A few other ones. Joe Blow Horror. It's on Joe Blow Horror now. It's on a few other ones there. It's also on Tubi, which I recommend watching on Tubi. There's ads on all these anyways. They're free with ads, but Tubi's a great spot for Head.
Yeah.
And this right now
Yes.
is only available on DVD. You can, by the time this airs, you'll have today, March 26th, to watch it online streaming. We're going to have it up for 1 week. You can pre-order it now, which this is going to be up by then, but its pre-orders are available now in March 6th for a weekend of streaming. But if you buy it on March 26th, which is today, where this goes up around 7 a.m., you still have a chance to go to our elmwood.vhx.tv and buy it, and then you can just watch it whenever you want. But that's the only day, that's the last day to be available to buy. So if you're watching this March 28th, you got to go buy the DVD and wait for it to come in the mail 5 days later or whatever. But I'll autograph it if you ask me to. So,
boy, I didn't even get an autographed copy.
I can. Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yours is like everyone's name on it, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. I
got a couple of those left too. If somebody really wants one with it, but they're actually on our thing. You can buy the autograph version. There's like 25 left, so they're available in like a special limited edition bundle. Well, with the soundtrack that you can't get unless you buy that bundle or come to an event. The only way you can get the soundtrack is if you come see it live or buy that bundle.
Do you have any plans to do any more premieres? Not premieres, but any more screenings?
We're waiting on 2 festivals for Bernice 2 right now. And if we get in those 2 festivals, we're gonna do those screenings. But everything else is we're just going forward after those festivals with either getting a distributor or finding another way to self-distribute it, maybe bringing it back to VHX later or something. So that's it. Just we're waiting on those 2 festivals. As soon as I know, you'll know.
What about Bantam Cinema?
Bantam Cinema, we'll talk off the air. We might do it. I'll talk to you about it off the air. Yeah.
Okay.
Just so we might still do that, but we're not like super planning anything just yet. But there's a couple of spots we might do locally. We'll talk about it though. Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Well, so do you have any final thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Funhouse? Just movies in general?
There's a movie that should have been made.
What?
Indiana Jones and the Funhouse. Let's do an Indiana Jones horror movie. They never did that.
You know what? So that's what lately I've been interviewing a lot of people that are doing these fan films, and I think that we have to do it.
Oh man, let's do a fake trailer. I don't think I can do a whole fan film. I don't have the patience for that. We do a fake trailer though. Yeah.
Well, it was great because two of the guests I've had. Michael Levy is a huge Michael Myers fan. He did I don't know if you watched it already or watched part of the interview, but he did Michael Myers at 60 years old. It's hilarious.
Oh no, I haven't gotten to that part yet. I was just dropping the titles in and everything when I edited it, so I haven't actually watched the whole thing yet.
But and then Peter Anthony is really big into Jason. So I told him, I said, if I was able to do that, I would pick Phantasm. He just stopped. He goes, "That's what I was thinking next." So I don't. But he said he and I both said the same thing. No, we can never get anybody to play Reggie. Said,
no. This is why puppets. People need to make more movies with puppets because the puppets don't age. So you can make a sequel 10 years later. Like if we want to make a Josh and Todd sequel, we made Josh and Todd in 2008.
Yep.
We put it out in 2011.
Yep.
So it's been 12 years, 13 years since Josh and Todd came out. 2023 now, so 12 years, right? 2023. Yeah, 12 to 13. So if I want to make a Josh Todd sequel now, Todd has not I mean, I have to fix the puppet. He has no feet. But he has feet. They're just not there. The legs are there, but the feet are missing. Yeah. But puppets don't age. Like Risley Brothers. There was a big break from the last episode and the short film we did 2 years later, and the puppets look exactly the same.
Yep.
They don't age. So you want to do a Phantasm sequel or animated even, but puppets are more fun.
Yeah, no. So
Head, we're making a sequel to Head, and it picks up not long after the first movie ended. Puppets don't age.
No,
and
if you need anybody, the writers don't age either. Well, the writers do age, but the writers won't be seen. So I'll be more
age gracefully. But yeah, no one could play Reggie. But imagine if they tried to make a remake of Phantasm, just totally off the topic of final thoughts. Like I would be so pissed. Just make another sequel, and if Reggie can't do it, I get it. Just have his character not be in it. That's all.
No, exactly. No, I said, and I mean. The Tall Man's another one. I mean, maybe you could do a Michael, maybe you could do a Jody, but Reggie and the Tall Man, that'd be two tough ones.
And to remake it, like who do you get? You have to do the same thing you do the original, just complete nobodies, like new people coming in, new actors.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I like what J.J. Abrams did. He basically just cleaned it up a little bit and made it, but more.
Remastered the movie to look better, which is fine. Yeah.
Instead of redoing it and remaking it. So I like the fact because he's such a huge fan. I mean, if you watch, I know you know all his stuff. He has so many references to Phantasm throughout his
Oh my God. Look at the Star Wars movies. He called the character was it Phasma?
something like that. And then I
Captain
think
Phasma.
Alias too. He had
Yep.
the Tall Man was an alias, but also they had a lot of other things.
The actor was an alien, but there's
Yeah.
Captain Phasma in the Star Wars movies he made, and it's a stormtrooper in a silver suit, like the ball.
Yep.
That was totally a Phantasm thing. Like that's so cool. Anyways, so final thoughts. I just check out both these movies, especially if you're a movie buff. You won't be disappointed in either of them when you look at them from the context of what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, don't take them seriously. Just take them for what they are. It's pure entertainment, and that's all it is. And they're fun movies. And Indiana Jones, it was a pleasure it's so good to be back on Real Talk.
It is.
I look forward to at least Frankenhooker for one movie. We're not sure what the second movie is going to be yet, but we'll be talking off the air. And I like the fact
that the guy who directed Frankenhooker. We'll maybe just do a couple of his films.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look. I know I can't remember his name, but I know what he's done.
Reanimator.
Yes.
Same director, right? Yeah. So maybe we'll do that. The Reanimator and Frankenhooker.
All right. Well,
I don't know. Anyways, yeah.
I'd have to look it up, but it's definitely the same guy, and I just can't remember his name. But yeah, Frankenhooker and maybe some of the Reanimator movies. And I look forward to getting the show back on a regular basis. And
maybe monthly.
Yeah, I think that's good. Once a month for this.
Monthly, because the next episode you're gonna have Nikki on, so looking forward to that. And then, but next week's episode of Anything Rich would be the Claws Corner, and that one is going to be Garcia. Anthony Garcia.
No, I thought it was Julia Portman.
No, that's next week. I'm talking about like from March 26th.
Yeah, Danny Garcia.
Danny Garcia will be the episode following this on the Claws Corner channel. So look forward to that next Sunday, Danny Garcia.
And just tell people what it is. It's a really fun interview because the guy we recorded the show. He was in Spain. I saw a documentary on it was a club called Max's Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
It was before CBGB's, and it was all. I saw that and I said I need to have you on the show. It was such a.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I'm aware of that documentary. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Now I have to watch that.
So that's the guy, and then he's coming out with one on oh my God, what's that hotel that's right near there? I can't remember, but anyway, soon a documentary in that hotel. He's going to be back on the show, talk about that too.
Oh, so cool.
Because there was a lot of different things that were happening there with a lot of different people. I think there might have been a hotel where Sid and Nancy were supposedly he killed her.
Not the Chelsea.
Yes, Chelsea.
Oh, it is the Chelsea. Okay, it was the Chelsea. Okay, yeah.
So he's doing a documentary in Chelsea, so he's going to come back on the show talk about that. So a lot of fun things coming up on Real Talk, Elmwood Productions, Confessions of Frenetic Mind, Claws Corner. I'm loving it.
Here we go.
We're back.
We're back. Everything's back for 2023.
In the immortal words of Weibo, it's going to be big.
It's going to be big. We miss you, Weibo. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, this is Rich.
This is John.
And this is Real Talk. See you soon.